So here the third mushal for whatever is higher and kola gavoya b'yesa yered mislabish. So we brought two mashalim already. We brought the mushal from a shalhevis which reaches very far away. So the distance shows that fact that it can come so far shows that it's a very strong shalhevis, even though there's a little oil, but it shows that there's a big shalhevis over there. A barrel or a chacham, which is filled with water, the overflow of water, the sichas chulin of a Talmud chacham, is a show of a lot of chachma, a lot of water. Umoshel hagimel umahashpoas hatipa begashmis. The third moshel is the flow of the tipa physically, which means when there is the power of birth, shemimenu hu ha'ilada mimahus limhus achar, through the seed that gives birth from one mahus, from one entity to a new entity, to a new mahus, another. A child is born, a new creation, a new mahus, not of the same as the hashpoeh. The one mahus creates something else, mahus chodosh, a new mahus. That is amazingly only gashmis. When the hashpoeh comes down to a seed is very physical. So when the hashpoeh comes down into gashmis, into a seed, dafke then the gavoya b'yoser comes down lamata mata b'yoser. That's when it creates a whole new mahus, and that only happens when the hashpoah goes down all the ways to the gashmis. That shows to you the power is revealed when it comes into gashmis. Otherwise, that power isn't revealed. Mash'enkein b'hashpoas haseichel, as opposed to when you give an idea, you're mashpia. The flow is intellectually. It's not a physical. It's not a tipa. It's not a seed. It's not a physical, but it's a spiritual. Shehi hashpoa ruchnis. That is a spiritual hashpoa flow. I efsher liyos hoilodo chadosha. Then you can't have a new birth. There's no birth. What does it mean? When you're trying to teach the student, you're not making up your student's intellect. The student already has an intellect, and you give him something to understand the intellect, but it doesn't create that student's intellect. The tipa creates the new mahus. Talmid hu bar seichel. When the Talmud has an intellect, he's a bar seichel, he has a seichel. Oz davke yovin es a seichel sheishpia leharav. So only then will he understand what the Rav taught him. But the Rav's seichel doesn't create a seichel. The hashpah of the Rav doesn't create a new seichel, something new by the Talmud. Being Cain. So therefore, you see, move on. It's understood. Malas hatipa gashmis dafke. So that's the lowest point. That's yored lamato mato yoser. The power to create is expressed dafke when it comes down lamato mato. When we're talking about a tipa gashmis dafke, dafke is specifically a physical seed. Hasher dafke mimeno. Neilad mehus chodosh. It's specifically from that seed that a new entity, a new mahus has been created. That's only in Gashmis. Mahus achar mimahus arisha, something different, another mahus from the first mahus. Shehu hashpos havlad. That is the hashpoah to make a child. A child is a new mahus. So how does a new mahus happen? Through hashpoah, which comes down dafke begashmis. That's the third marshal to show that when it comes down in the lowest level, that is when you get the highest level. So the Rebbe says that, I'm going to say that while the three examples, they represent the various different levels in the Hamshocha. We have the Hamshocha in Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, and what we're talking about here, you're bringing down from Gavoya B'Yoser, we're talking about Atzmus that comes down in Lamata Mata Yoser, that Davker in Asiya Gashmis, in Olam HaAsiya. In Olam HaAsiya, there's also Ruchnis and Gashmis. That's what the Rebbe is heading for, to tell us that Davke in the Maisa HaMitzvahs Gashmim, you get the level of the Ein Sof, the level of Atzmus. Even though in every world, whether it's even the world of Atzilus or higher, Lifnei Atzimtzum, there is also within the world Gavoya, the highest comes down to the lowest, but the real highest comes down into the real lowest, in the lowest of all the world, which means Atzmus comes down in Asiya. B'yashloimar b'derech efsher, we can say in a possible way, Bibiyur inyan hagimul misholim, explaining these three moshels. Dihine, inyan mashekol hagavoya gavoya b'yoser, yored lenamuch namuch b'yoser. What is the idea? That the higher, that is very high, comes down to the very, very low. Hu hamshocha meho atzmus libya. That is talking, bringing down atzmus to biyah. We're not talking about bringing down atzmus to atzilus. We're talking about bringing down namuch b'yoser, namuch b'yoser. That's biyah. That's bri yitzira sira, not atzilus. In atzilus, you don't bring down that gavoya b'yoser. You don't have amshachas atzmus in atzilus. The ba'atzilus harei ihu v'chayoyi chad. In the world of Atzilus, Hashem with the energy, with the Oiris, is one, united. Hashem with the Garmoy, with the Kalim, is united. And therefore, it's not Namuch, it's not low, it's a high world, it's connected with Hashem. V'nikra Oilam Ha'elikus, that's called a godly world, that's Atzilus. Ve'ein za Namuch, that's not a low world. And what is the intent? We say it comes down to the low world. That's the idea of Bria creation. What is called Bria? Those are the world of Bria Yitzira Asira. Not Atzilus, but Bria Yitzira Asira. So the Bri Yitzira Asiyah, the Rebbe is going to say these marshal of the three masholim that we gave before, from the Avuka and the Mayim and the Hashpah Gashmis, fit the three levels of Bria Yitzira Asiyah. Bechlal in Hishtalshelus, the Rebbe spoke in the Mamorim earlier in that year, that the Ishtalshlus and Chassidus and Kabbalah it talks about is in a way of oir, mayim, and rakia. Oir, mayim, and rakia. So you have the moshel he's going to say of oir is the moshel of the shalheves. The moshel of the mayim is the chavis, we said. And the moshel of rakia, that's hashpoah gashmis. He's going to explain how it fits. B'hinei seder ha'amshocha ba'olam ezbiyah. What's the order, the way things extend in the world of Bria Yitzira Asiya? Hu beha'ofen, it's in a way of oir, mayim, rakia. That's the way in the creation. You oir, and then the mayim yikov l'mokomecha, this be rakia. So also the ishtalshalus goes oir, mayim, and rakia. Commission is boyer, barucha, behamamorim, the chodesh tishrei. As explained in the Mamorim Chodesh Tishrei. So be'emerson, that's the way Hishtalshlus comes. Oir, Mayim, and Rakia. So this is the idea of the three moshels. The moshel ha'avuka, the example of the flame, of the torch, hu inyan hoir, that's the idea of oir. Umoshel hachavis, and the example of the barrel, hu inyan hamayim, that's the idea of water. Umoshel hatipa, physical inyan rakia. What is the rakia? Rakia, the firmament. The rakia, the sky, right? What is the moshel? Why is that considered the geshem? So it brings down, there is you have water, but then when the water freezes, it loses its previous status. Like a mikveh that is mayim she'uvim, according to some opinions, you can make a mikveh, in places where they can't get rainwater, they use ice over there. They melt the ice in the mikveh, and that's how they get the rainwater, because the ice that becomes from the water gets on a new form. It's now ice, it's no longer water. It loses this disqualification of the mayim she'uvim. It's a new entity, it's gashmis, it congeals, it freezes. So that's the rakia. The rakia is the firmament that is the moshel of the tipa, because moshel ha-tipa hu in ha-rakia, that's the firmament, the rakia, the sky. Shenase geshem umahus chodosh. It became physical, a new entity. It's no longer water. And therefore, mayim diglidu, mayim, water that has frozen. But they lost their law of drawn water. To such an extent, they lose the previous status. Many days, these liquids, the ice that you make a mikveh, they can add to the 40 saw. They don't disqualify the mikveh with gimel lugin shuvim. You can make a mikveh lachatchila. They don't passel a gimel lugin shuvim. That would passel a mikveh. Even you had a mikveh, if you didn't have 40 saw, they would passel it. But the mikveh can be made. Basically, the point is, it's a geshem. It's in a new form. It's physicalized. That's the moshel of the tipa, which comes down begashmi. So now this is the example how it translates into the Eish, Mayim, and Rakia, Oir, Mayim, and Rakia, Shalheves, Mayim, and Tipa. Those are the corresponding to the three levels. But now, while we have in all worlds the level of Kol HaGavoya B'Yoser, Namach B'Yoser within the world, but in Klolus Olam, it's the level of Atzma in this world, Dafke. V'hinei, This Bayer Drushe Chodesh Tishrei, in the Maimorim of Chodesh Tishrei, it's explained, Asher Inyan Bechinas Oir Mayim Rokia, this level of Oir Mayim Rokia, Eino Irak Bebiyah. This is not only in Bri Yitzir Asiyah, Ki'im Gam Ba'atzilus, we also have that in Atzilus, Ube Keser, also in the world of Keser, Ulemaylo Yoser, and even higher than Keser, Ad Ba'oir Shekoidim HaTzimtzum, until the light which is before the Tzimtzum, there too you have Oir, Maim, and Rakia. Vim came, and since we are applying Oir, Maim, and Rakia in these higher levels, move on. Asher Gam Shom, Shayich Kol HaGimel Misholim, Davuka Chavis V'Tipa. So over there applies all these three marshals of Avuka Chavis V'Tipa. So you have the Avuka is in the Oir Lifnei HaTzimtzum, the Chavis is in Keser, and the Tipa would be Atzilus. So over there too are within which each world. So while there is also the ideas of these Mesholim that the higher comes to a lower, even in this higher world, but it's still not, the higher over there does not match up to the higher what we're talking about here in Klolus Olam Atzmus. But in each place and place, ubechol darga v'darga, in each step and step, the revelation of the higher more, is in the lower b'yoser. In each world, in that world, the highest level of that world is revealed in the lowest of the world. V'hainu, that means in the parentheses, asher b'hanamuch b'yoser shebe'olam hahu, that in the lowest, in that world, mizgala hagavoya b'yoser shebe'olam hahu, that's where the highest, the very highest in that world is revealed. But in each world by itself. So what's revealed, for example, in the world of Atzilus, the highest level of Atzilus is revealed in the lowest level of Atzilus. But not the level of Atzmus, because that's in the general. When we talk about the order of Ishtalshlus in general, this whole Ishtalshlus, Hare Hanamuch, Namuch b'Yoser, what is the lowest? Hu b'Biyah. That's the B'riyat Sirasiyah. That's what the Rebbe said before. Namuch doesn't go on Atzilus, it only goes on Biyah, because that's the lowest. But within Biyah itself, Ba'ad, Olam HaSiyah, that's the lowest, B'riyat Sirah Til Asiyah. Hinei Shom Mizgale HaGavoya Gavoya b'Yoser. So in the lowest, in B'riyat Sirah Asiyah, in Asiyah, over there is revealed the highest, the most highest. Shalemaila, which is higher, which is higher than the very high relative to Atzilus, and very high ulamaila Atzilus, and higher than Atzilus by Keser, v'koidem hatzimtzum, and before Tzimtzum, it's higher than that higher, because that's the higher according to that world. Here we're the higher of Kol Hishtalshelus. What is the highest level? Shahu Atzmusir Mahusay. This is the essence of Mahusay. That's the highest. Hinehu Mizgale Ba'atachtin Tachtin B'Yoser. In the lowest, very lowest. So if it would have just said Tachtin B'Yoser, it would mean Biyah, all of Biyah. But there's an emphasis as Tachtin, 2 times Tachtin. Which means that within Biyah itself, in the lowest of Biyah, in the lowest of Asiyah, the Kefal Haloshin, Tachten, the double Loshin, Mizgale, B'Tachten, B'Yoser, Moire, that points ala Yoser Tachten She'ef Shori, on the lowest possible Tachten. She'ein Tachten Lamata Mimenu, that there is nothing lower than it. V'hu inyan olam ha'asiyah. That's this world. the world of Asiya, the world of doing, meaning not even Bria, not even Yitzira, but in Asiya. V'zehu inyan, and this is the idea when we say that the connecting piece, that we say the pillars stay on the ground. She'amudim nitzovim ba'oretz dafke. The pillars are staying in the ground in Asiya. The kshetzorich livnois habayis habeis choima. Godel, when we need to build this house in a wall, a large one. We're building a godel. What does the godel mean? We're being Mo'inyan Gedulas Hashem. We're building a house which the greatness of Hashem is there. The Bemokim Gedulas Shom Ato Moitze An. In the place where there is Hashem's greatness, that's where you find Hashem's humility, which means it comes down to the lowest level. Hine, b'chol seder ha'ishtalshlus. In all of the order of ishtalshlus, av sheyesh, in the other letters, b'chinas, oir mayim rakia, b'chol ha'madreges, in all the steps, there is, you can't put the pillar in any high madreges. There is Meshum Ruach, but you're not going to get Atzmus, you're not going to get the greatest. Aval Bichdei, Sheyeh Gilu HaGavoya Gavoya B'Yesem, but you want Gavoya is also doubled, 2 times Gavoya. I mean, the very high, Shehu Atzmus, Hine is Galusei, it's revealed dafke in the lowest lowers. Shehu olam ha'asiya, which is the world of Asiya. That's where it's revealed. And within Asiya itself, dafke the gashmis of Asiya. Asiya gufa, in Asiya itself, loy ba'asiya haruchnis, not in the spiritual Asiya, ki ba'asiya hagashmis. But in the physical Asiya, that's the lowest level. Ein tachten lamata menu in Asiya Gashmis. Now, within Asiya Gashmis, you can do a spiritual avodah and a physical avodah. Expressing is only in the physical avodah, mitzvahs in the physical act of mitzvahs. Move on from this, we understand. Shegam ba'asiya hagashmis gufa, even in the physical Asiya, the level of Asiya, we're also talking about a physical act in Asiya, not a spiritual act in Asiya. We also need to be the lowest level within Asiya. Behainu, and that is, what does it mean? It's through a physical act. Asher is galus ha'atzmus, the revelation of Atzmus, einoi ba'avodah haruchnis sheba'ilam hazeh. It's not in the spiritual work that we do in this world. Ki im ba'asiya gashmis davke, but davke in doing the physical act, in the act of mitzvahs that come physical, in the physical mitzvahs, the mitzvahs that we do with physicality. V'zehu gamke mashe medayich b'likutei Torah b'drusha tzivtzis. That's why he's also specifically says precisely in Likutei Torah in the Drushma Tzitzis, when he says b'moshul ha'mudim shenimtzovim ba'oretz, when he gives the example of the pillars that's staying on the ground. So he says over there that the ground has to be strong. You can't have soft earth. It needs to be strong so that the pillar stays. The bichdei shehamudim yachziku es habinyan ba'tikra shal gabeim. In order for the people, for the pillars to support, to hold the structure and the roof that's on top of the pillars, tzrichim liyos be'ofer kosher davke. They need to be standing on hard dirt, v'loy be'ofer tituach, and not grinded up, not sand, not offer tituach that is grinded up, because it needs to be in a strong place. Hinei Kain Gam, that's why also we have the mitzvahs tzrichim liyos offer kosher davke. So the mitzvahs, the pillar need to be standing in hard dirt, in hard offer, strong place. Misayim Shom Asiya Le'ela, as he concludes in that Maimer Lukut Torah, that the highest is doing the Asiya. V'hu ha-mitzvahs shenislapshu begashmi izdavke. Those are the mitzvahs that dressed up physically. Those are the mitzvahs which bring down the pillar, bring down from the highest level. So within this Asiya Gashmi's world, it also has to be an act of Asiya Gashmis. And Dafke, that's in that level of Asiya, over there we have the manifestation of the highest level of Atzmus Eisof Gavoya Gavoya B'Yosef. This, the Rebbe explains now, is actually nice, explaining now that we need in all the different worlds we have in Atzilus and we have in Keser, but it's Seder Ishtalshlus, it's Biyah, and in Biyah, in Asiya. In Asiya, it's the physical act of a mitzvah. Now we'll understand why the Keroshim, because the Keroshim in the Mishkan, we said they're only al derech, because a mitzvah, which is begashmius, that actually brings down the essence, the atzmus ein sof. Keroshim is more a spiritual service. The Rebbe says the mitzvahs, and the Rebbe will bring out even those mitzvahs that are obligation of the heart, but they still have to physically impact the person, or the pleasure needs to act physically. So which means all mitzvahs really have an impact on the physicality of the mitzvahs. So while the Keroshim represent a spiritual avodah, and there is a connection, but that's not the full Gavoya B'Yoser. They don't get down. The Gavoya B'Yoser, that comes down through mitzvahs gashmis, through mitzvahs that we do in this physical world. And since those are the mitzvahs, the Keroshim, the Amudim are just al derech. They're similar to the mitzvahs, but not as the mitzvahs, as the Rebbe will continue to explain. Okay, let's leave it over here, and we'll be mamshech. Maru be'ezras Hashem.
Tomorrow, Mr. Hashem. See you then.
Yeah.